When someone listens to you, really listens, how could you ever suspect they have something else in mind? A soft sound fills the space. When I felt lonely, he was there. That's how it begins. Not with fear, not with threat, not with anything that feels wrong. It begins with relief. I babysat my niece and nephew during the week. Their house felt lighter than mine. Not happier exactly, just easier. The air didn't feel tight there. I didn't feel like I had to shrink. He was usually around. He noticed when I arrived, noticed when I spoke, noticed when I went quiet. He asked how school was going. He waited for the answer. Didn't rush it, didn't correct it. When I talked, he didn't interrupt. He didn't turn it into advice or a lecture. He listened like what I said had weight. When I couldn't talk to my parents, I could talk to him. When I felt stupid for being overwhelmed, he told me it made sense. When I felt invisible, he looked directly at me. He remembered things. The test I was nervous about, the friend I'd stopped talking to, the song I played over and over because it helped me sleep. He laughed at my jokes, even the ones that weren't funny. And when someone laughs with you, you stop asking why. "Mary's got the kids," he'd say. "Let's go for a drive." We'd sit in the car, windows cracked, music low. The road moved steadily in front of us. Nothing urgent, nothing sharp. It felt like space. I talked about school stress, about friends, about how heavy things felt at home sometimes. He listened. Sometimes he joked about my mom, not cruelly, just enough to make me smile. "When your mom turns into a lawyer," he said once, "you can plead the fifth." He laughed. So did I. Laughter felt like permission, like breathing out. Besides the babysitting money, sometimes there were gifts. Not big ones, not dramatic ones, just things I liked. "Whoa," I said once. "I wanted this exact one." "Yeah," he said, casual. "I saw you post about it online." It felt thoughtful, like someone had been paying attention. No one else remembered what I posted. No one else noticed the small things. I told myself that meant I mattered. He didn't talk to me like I was a kid. He didn't make me feel annoying or dramatic. He talked to me like I was interesting. Like my thoughts weren't something to get through, but something worth staying with. And when someone treats you that way, you don't step back. You lean closer. At some point, he asked if I was dating anyone. I shrugged. "Why not?" he asked. "Guys don't look at me," I said. He smiled like I was wrong, like I didn't see myself clearly. "They do," he said. "A cute girl with curves always gets attention." My face burned, part embarrassment, part something else I couldn't name yet. He talked about confidence, about bodies, about how people see you. It felt strange, but it also felt validating. No one had ever talked to me like that before. So I told myself it was normal. Normal to talk about personal things with someone you're close to. Normal to laugh when something makes you uncomfortable. Normal to feel unsure and push the feeling away. He never demanded anything. He offered time, attention, understanding, and I accepted. Because acceptance feels like safety when you've been hungry for it. He remembered what I liked, what stressed me out, what made me laugh. He made me feel chosen. That felt like love. Not romantic, not sexual, just warm, like being held in a way that didn't feel heavy. And when you finally feel held, you don't look for the exit. You stay. You tell yourself you're lucky. You tell yourself you're overthinking. You tell yourself closeness can't be dangerous if it feels this comforting. The human brain is wired to seek safety before truth, connection before clarity. belonging before logic. Attachment comes first, especially for children. Children don't evaluate risk the way adults do. They don't scan for danger. They scan for connection. They don't ask, "Is this safe?" They ask, "Will I be alone if I say no?" When someone offers attention, consistency, and understanding, the nervous system registers relief. That relief matters. The body softens. The guard lowers. Trust settles in. Even when something feels slightly off, because discomfort is easier to tolerate than abandonment. That's why grooming rarely looks threatening. It doesn't arrive with force. It arrives with warmth, with listening, with remembering, with making someone feel important when they've felt invisible. The brain files that person under safe long before harm ever appears. And once trust is built, questioning it feels dangerous. Not because something bad might happen, but because something good might disappear. That's how unease gets ignored. That's how boundaries blur. That's how closeness becomes confusing. Not through fear, through connection. And by the time the thought something isn't right finally surfaces, trust is already heavy, already rooted, too real to dismiss, too costly to challenge. This is where it sits, not as a conclusion, not as a warning, just a quiet tension, a safety that feels real, and a closeness that hasn't yet revealed what it will eventually cost. At first, it didn't feel different, not enough to name. The conversation shifted quietly, sideways, like a joke that lingered too long. He talked about sex more often, not directly, not in a way that sounded explicit, just enough. Enough to make me feel older, enough to make me feel noticed. Sometimes he commented on my body, not harshly, not crudely, just observations. "You've changed. You're growing up." People notice that. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me felt embarrassed. Another part felt seen. And when two feelings exist at the same time, your mind doesn't know which one to trust. His touch changed slowly, a hand on my shoulder that stayed a moment longer, standing closer than before, passing by and brushing against me without apology. Once, while we were driving, his hand rested on my thigh. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't aggressive. It just stayed. I froze. Not because I understood what it meant, but because my body stopped moving. I stared out the window, watched the road stretch forward. I told myself not to make it awkward, because if I reacted, I'd have to decide what it was, and I wasn't ready for that. Later, he suggested the beach. "Just us," he said. I hesitated. "My mom's expecting me home." "We won't be long," he replied. "She'd overreact anyway." I felt something tighten in my chest. Not fear, guilt. The kind that tells you you're being difficult, that you're ruining something good. "Oh, you're no fun," he added, smiling. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was easier. That night, alone in my room, I replayed everything, over and over. Was I imagining it? Was I overthinking? Was this just how adults were? I searched for a moment I could point to. A clear line crossed. There wasn't one. It wasn't violent. That's why it was confusing. There was no single moment that screamed wrong. Just a slow accumulation of unease. I started blaming myself. I shouldn't have laughed. I shouldn't have accepted the gifts. I shouldn't have gone on the drives. I told myself, if I had stopped it earlier, it wouldn't have gotten this far. That thought felt safer than admitting the truth. Because blaming myself meant I still had control. And control feels better than helplessness. I didn't want to get him in trouble. I didn't want to destroy the family. I just wanted things to go back to how they were. But they didn't. So I pulled away. I stopped babysitting, stopped answering his calls. But the guilt followed me. Every holiday felt like a question mark. Every family gathering felt heavy. I thought, it's too late to say anything now. And I stayed quiet. What I didn't know then was that my body was already reacting long before my mind caught up. The brain has an alarm system. Its job is to detect danger. When something feels unpredictable, that system stays on. The heart beats faster. The muscles tighten. The breath shortens. Even when nothing obvious is happening, the amygdala doesn't wait for certainty. It reacts to patterns, and mine was reacting constantly. At the same time, the part of the brain that helps you think clearly, weigh options, make decisions, it went quiet, like brakes that don't respond. Imagine driving a car where the gas pedal sticks and the brakes barely work. That's what trauma feels like. Your body accelerates. Your thoughts lag behind. That's why I didn't confront him. That's why I didn't scream or run. Not because I agreed, because the system that allows choice was overloaded. Freezing isn't a decision. It's a reflex. My memory started to blur. Details felt scattered, out of order. Some moments disappeared completely. Others returned suddenly, without warning. Later, when I tried to remember exactly what happened, I struggled. Not because I was lying, because stress disrupts how memories are stored. Under chronic stress, the brain doesn't organize experiences cleanly. They fragment. And when memory fragments, self-doubt fills the gaps. If I can't remember it clearly, maybe it didn't happen the way I think. That doubt kept me silent. Silence felt safer. Then something else happened. I stopped feeling much at all. The fear dulled. The sadness flattened. Even the anger faded. This wasn't relief, it was numbness. When emotions become overwhelming, the brain sometimes shuts them down. Not as punishment, as protection. This is emotional blunting. It allows you to function when feeling would be too much. But it comes with a cost. Joy disappears too. So does clarity. I felt disconnected from my own reactions. I watched myself from a distance, wondering why I wasn't reacting the way I thought I should. That confusion deepened the shame. Why don't I feel angrier? Why didn't I stop it? Because trauma doesn't make you loud. It makes you quiet. It teaches endurance, tolerance, silence. When care and discomfort come from the same place, the brain binds them together. This is trauma bonding. Relief follows unease. Kindness follows crossing. The nervous system learns that closeness requires discomfort. So you endure. You wait for things to return to the version of safety you remember. And when that doesn't happen, you blame yourself. Self-blame becomes a form of regulation. If it's your fault, then it's manageable. If it's your fault, then it's preventable. That belief hurts less than accepting that someone you trusted crossed a line. Trauma doesn't shout. It rewires. It changes how the body interprets safety, how the mind weighs threat, how memory stores experience. And because the damage isn't visible, it's easy to miss. I withdrew further. I avoided him, avoided the house, avoided myself. I carried it alone until the weight became heavier than the fear of speaking. There is a cost to awareness that comes too early. Innocence doesn't disappear all at once. It erodes. Silence becomes safety. Compliance replaces choice. What saves you as a child, staying quiet, staying agreeable, staying connected, can imprison you later. Because once survival becomes your language, truth feels dangerous. I didn't tell anyone right away. I held it inside. Until one evening, standing in the doorway, voice barely steady, I said the only thing I could. "Mom, can we talk?" What remains after experiences like this is not a single emotion. It is a pattern. The nervous system carries it forward. In adulthood, it often shows up quietly, as anxiety that seems to come from nowhere, as a constant scanning of rooms, faces, tones, as hypervigilance that never fully turns off. The body stays prepared, even in calm spaces, even with safe people. Emotional numbness can settle in, not because there is nothing to feel, but because feeling once meant danger. Boundaries feel confusing. Saying yes feels automatic. Saying no feels risky. Relationships become complicated. Closeness is wanted, then feared. Distance feels safer, then lonely. None of this is random. These are not flaws. They are not weaknesses. They are not personality defects. They are learned survival strategies. The nervous system adapted to an environment where safety was unpredictable, where connection came with conditions, where staying alert mattered more than resting. The body did what it had to do, and it kept doing it. Healing does not begin by forcing those patterns to disappear. It begins by understanding why they exist. The brain is not fixed. It is adaptable. Neuroplasticity means the nervous system can change, not through denial, not through pretending the past did not matter, but through repeated experiences of safety. Healing is not about suppressing reactions. It is about regulating them, learning to notice when the body tenses, when the breath shortens, when the urge to freeze or appease appears, and responding with curiosity instead of judgment. Naming what happened matters, not to relive it, not to stay trapped in it, but to give the body context. Because what remains unspoken stays confusing, and confusion keeps the nervous system on edge. Safe relationships are part of this process, not perfect ones, consistent ones. Relationships where boundaries are respected, where no is accepted without punishment, where care does not require repayment. Therapy, when it helps, does not erase memory. It helps the nervous system relearn timing. Then is not now. The danger has passed. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means the body learns it is no longer in danger. This takes time. The nervous system may not trust safety at first. Calm can feel unfamiliar. Stillness can feel suspicious. That does not mean healing is failing. It means the body is learning something new, slowly, carefully. And this is where recognition matters more than resolution. You didn't miss the signs. You were trained to trust. You didn't fail. Your brain adapted. Safety comes before blame. Compassion comes before judgment. Witnessing comes before fixing. Healing is not about becoming someone else. It is about allowing yourself to exist without disappearing, without bracing, without performing. And the moment you understand what happened is the moment healing begins.